Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Phi and this is Money Philosophy. Today we will talk about Tesla technical analysis, but I will also go over some of the important stocks in light of the market conditions today. And those stocks include Amazon, Shopify, Roku, NVDA, and Google. At the time of this recording, it is 3:40 Eastern Standard Time, and we are down a lot for the day. The QQQ is down over 2.5%, and same with SPY. So I wanted to give you a holistic look of what the market looks like given these conditions and what to expect in the next couple of days. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I am a growth stock investor and a trader, and I'd love to share with you my investing and trading journeys. Let's get right into it. Let's start with QQQ. So on Friday, QQQ had a mild retracement and it ended the day at around $373. Today, it started with a gap down well below 50 days SMA, which is the white line here and the white dotted line here at 369, and it is still right now below 50 days SMA at 363. Given that 200 days SMA is at 337, we have about $27 to go. It is possible that it will reach for 200 days SMA before bouncing. Today is the first day of a relatively big drop for the market as a whole. I don't expect today is the only day. Tomorrow, in fact, it might have a continuation of the downturn. Right now, QQQ has a decent support at 360 and again at 353, but I do think that it could fall down a little bit further in an attempt to reach 344 before bouncing back up. So we still see more downside ahead. Let's take a look at the SPY. So for SPY, once again, it is also below 50 days SMA, and 50 days SMA is at 442. On Friday, we sort of get a hint that the SPY will be heading down south, given the fact that it started the day above 50 days SMA and it ended the day below 50 days SMA. It is a very bearish candle on Friday. Sure enough, today it had a major gap down and continued to move down. 200 days SMA right now for SPY is at $409, so that is still another $22 to go, give or take. I do think that it is possible that it's reaching for 200 days SMA, but first, another important support would be 424. And then 416 before it gets to 409. The volume is also pretty impressive. Today with the bearish price action, the volume is at 212%. Let's see what the QQQ's volume is like. QQQ volume is 185%. So it does seem that the bearish price action is here to stay. This is not a fake move. In order for a crash to happen, we need the bearish price action and volume, which we did have today. Moving on to Tesla. Tesla is at $726 right now, down over 4% for today, also with a gap down. That gap is from 756 to 732, but right now it is well below the gap. It is around 726, but is still above 200 days SMA and 50 days SMA, right now at $700 level. The volume for Tesla is at 129%, so by the time we close, we're probably looking at 140%, which is also significant. Given the volume for both QQQ, SPY, and Tesla, I do think that today is just the first day of drop. We do expect some more drop in the next few days. The next support for Tesla is 714, and then you get to 701, 695. That would be 200 days SMA. If Tesla loses 695, I think it would be in trouble and it could head down to 641, which is 50 weeks SMA. Now, don't forget that Tesla is due for a delivery update by the 1st or the 4th of October. As I mentioned in my previous video, we are about a week and a half to 2 weeks away from that. I do expect Tesla to turn the corner by the end of this week or early next week, assuming the market also turns the corner. But if everything is moving downhill, then we would probably expect Tesla to trend down, and we would expect a little bit of a spike the Friday leading up to delivery result, and that's about it. So let's see what the market will do for Tesla. I'm a little worried, but I would first wait for Tesla to get to 701 and see if it holds that level first. Let's take a look at the 1 hour chart. So the 1 hour chart here, we can see that right now it is just about to get to 714. It probably won't get there by the end of the day today, but that would be the next support point for it. Tomorrow, trading price range would be on the upper end 740, mid pivot point is 727, and the bottom is 706, just right above 200 days and 50 days SMA. Once again, keep in mind that these are very, very strong support. If Tesla loses this support tomorrow, Tesla could head down south even further. However, if we see that Tesla move down furiously, moving through all of these levels all the way below 695, it probably gonna get to an oversold condition, which means that it could bounce pretty quickly. So keep that in mind. I do expect Tesla to get down to about $700 level and then bounce. Looking at the 15-minute chart here, it seems like within the first 15 minutes, Tesla really tried to get to about 741, but it could not hold it. It never got to the pre-market high of about $759 with this pin bar here. And then it started going down from there with a little bit of a consolidation and move back down. Leading into the last hour, it seems like Tesla is bouncing pretty strongly, but overall the price action for the stock is still pretty bearish. This is as a result of the overall bearish condition in the market. So you can see that last week, Thursday and Friday, it's pretty much show a consolidation pattern here. And we would expect Tesla to get somewhere in the 750, 760 at the opening today. But given the market condition, everything has been moving down. People sold a lot after the quad witching Friday. So it seems like Tesla is just conforming with the market, unfortunately. I do think that with the catalyst of Q3 delivery, Tesla could potentially spike back up within the next few days or next week. But that is still up in the air. We have to wait to see if the market will turn around within the next few days, whether this is just a mini correction or whether the market is heading for a more prolonged correction, which could last for weeks, right? And if that's the case, it's really hard for Tesla to fight the trend. Moving on to Amazon here. Amazon today touched 200 days SMA at 3302 and start bouncing back. Right now, we still have about 10 minutes to go before the market closes, and Amazon has already bounced to $3,335. At the bottom, it was about $3,302. A 200 days SMA is a very strong support. Below that, we have 3251. Now, tomorrow, if Amazon has a gap up for whatever reason, then I think that's a good opportunity for a put option to take the stock down, because I do think today is just the first day of a downside and it could potentially continue to move down tomorrow. When Amazon fall below 3302, let's say 3275 or so, that could get Amazon to a severely oversold condition, and it could potentially bounce from there. Keep in mind right now it is already at an oversold condition. But I think that tomorrow could be an opportunity for it to be a little bit more oversold, and we could potentially take a call option if it gets there. But once again, we have to look at the overall environment. If the market overall is still moving down south with strong volume above 120%, then maybe it is not time for a call option yet. So everything is still up in the air. I'm patiently waiting for tomorrow. If I do have a put option, I will hold on until tomorrow. But since I do not have any position right now, I'm just waiting for Amazon to get to oversold conditions so that I can take a call option. Conversely, if Amazon gaps up tomorrow, even just a $10, $15 gap, there's a good chance that it could move back down to retest 3302 again. So we have about $30 to go to get back to 3302. And if tomorrow Amazon opens, I don't know, at 33.50 or something like that, I think that is a decent optimal point to bring the stock down to 33.02 again. So once again, with Amazon, there are two distinguishable plays depending on where you stand on the spectrum. You can also do both play, which is a put option, to bet on a continuation of the bearish trend if Amazon gaps up a little bit tomorrow, or you can wait for Amazon to get to oversold condition below 3302, so call it 32.75 or so. You can take a call option for Amazon to go back up to about 33.50. Shopify also lost 50 days SMA up here, and 50 days SMA was at 15.15. It is at 14.26 now. Right now, the next support is 13.62, and it could get to 200 days SMA of 12.93. Once again, this is a head and shoulder pattern on the daily chart that I shared in the past, and it does look like it is materializing. If Shopify loses the support today, which is at around 14.25, then the next price target is, like I said, 13.62. The volume today for Shopify is also 141%. It is very strong volume. Almost across the board, every single stock is selling off with strong volume. So I think the sell-off is here to stay, and we will see at least another day, if not 2 more days of selling off. Let's take a look at the 30-minute chart for Shopify. So Shopify created a pretty substantial gap this morning. It ended Friday at 14.85. It opened at around 14.50, creating about $35 gap, and it continued to move down. Then it spiked back up at some point, hit the pivot line here, but could not hold on to it and start moving down. If you were to play the gap like I did, you probably could capture this particular gap up here for the first, I want to say 5 minutes. So it was a lightning fast trade. I could not possibly aim for Shopify to close the gap because that's a very big gap given the conditions in the market, the bearish condition. So I took a call option to close the gap, but I only held it for about $20 to $30. I could share with you on the trade if you're interested, but it was a lightning fast trade for me, netting about $950. And that is just playing on the bounce, the first bounce in the morning. Right now, as I'm recording this video, Shopify is bouncing pretty strongly, and it is going to end the day probably around 14.30, give or take. Tomorrow trading range for Shopify is on the upper end of 14.60, mid-range is 14.30, and the bottom range is 13.66, which is very close to the support point that I have here. I don't think Shopify is done with bearish price action. Once again, if the head and shoulder pattern were to play out, Shopify needs to fall to at least 13.62 from what I can see here, if not even 12.93. If you are an investor in Shopify, if you want to add to your position or begin a position, I think I would wait for Shopify to get to 12.93 before beginning that position. It looks like all stocks are looking to head toward 200 days SMA right now, which would be, in a way, a good balance given that it has been running up a lot. So if you look at SPY here, in the last few months, every time SPY gets to 50 days SMA, it bounced. So 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And this one almost get to 50 days SMA, but it didn't, and then it bounced. This time around, it would be reasonable to expect that SPY was bounce from here, but it did not, and it went all the way down here. Right now, it is in the middle of 50 days SMA and 200 days SMA. I think it's going to gear down to 200 days. Whether it actually stopped at 200 days or reverse before that is a different story. But the next few days, I do see more downside to get closer to 200 days SMA. Here is Roku. I don't think I cover Roku in the past, but it is also a favorite stock to trade. I think that after getting to $490 back at end of July, it started retracing back down. You can see that the 50 days SMA is about to cross through the 200 days SMA, creating a death cross here. So it's about to, it's not yet there. And if it is heading that way, then it looks like Roku has more downside potential. I think Roku presents a good opportunity for a swing option. So when this death crosses form, it could probably go back down even further. Right now, the next support point for Roku would be 284, which is only about $30 from here, and it could get there in a couple of days if the market continued to move down. However, one interesting thing about Roku is that it has been finding really strong support at $315. Today's price action is only at 74% when it dropped over 2.5%. So this tells me that potentially Roku could bottom out, but we'll have to see. If this does cross, then I do think Roku has more downside, but temporarily it might be finding a bottom. So keep an eye for Roku and wait for the right setup. I think we have good opportunity in the next few days for Roku. Now let's take a look at Google. So Google overall chart, it still holds on to above 50 days SMA pretty well. So that is 2740. It touched 50 days SMA today, but then bounce. So Google is still pretty strong. And over the last few months, Google has been a great, wonderful runner. Almost didn't touch 50 days SMA at all for the last few months. But today it did touch 50 days SMA. Now, tomorrow, if Google fall below 50 days SMA, then it is just the same story with all other stock and the market overall, which is going to head down or attempting to head down to 200 days SMA. If Google can bounce from here or consolidate from here, then that is really good news for Google. That means that the stock will continue to go back up. And look at this amazing run from Google. It's been building, it built a wonderful base way back in February to March timeframe. This is where I enter my Google both call options and share because of this long base. We saw a gap up and a major base being built, and sure enough, Google broke out. But keep in mind that the gap was never filled. The gap was from 1920 to 2057. That was an earnings gap back in February. It was never filled. So in the next market crash, whenever that is, I would expect Google to fall back down to 1920 in order to fill this gap. And if it does, I'll be loading up some shares. So that's something interesting about Google. Google has a long way to go, though. If you are a Google shareholder, congratulations for you. It's been doing a fantastic job running up $1,000 within a very short amount of time. Today, if you look at the volume, it's 165%, but the volume is predominantly buy volume. Even though the rest of the market is selling off. Google is also at oversold condition based on RSI. So I think that Google has the best chance of bouncing, especially is holding on to 50 days SMA, getting into oversold condition, and has a huge amount of call volume on a day that the volume is at 166%. So keep that in mind. This also gives me hope that if Google bounce, it could drag the entire market, or at least the QQQ, to bounce back up with it. Lastly, let's talk about another strong stock, which is NVDA. NVDA is also down today of 3.59%. The volume is 125%, but NVIDIA is just hovering right above 50 days SMA. It also touched 50 days SMA at 207 and then bounced. It ended the day at 211. So that is not bad for NVIDIA. NVIDIA, the fact that it's still above 50 days SMA is not bearish yet, but tomorrow, if the entire market moves down, NVIDIA might lose 50 days SMA, and that is going to be bearish territory, at least temporarily. NVIDIA is already at oversold based on RSI. The volume is about half and half sell volume, half buy volume. So we will have to see what tomorrow will bring. I do think that NVIDIA could hold 50 days SMA because it bounced there. But if tomorrow it cannot hold it, then it is very bearish for NVIDIA. Conversely, if it can hold, we could probably consolidate here for a few more days and then heading back up. So this is it for this video. I hope you find the information helpful, and I hope that you stay calm during the market correction. If you have shares and are a long-term shareholders, definitely do not panic. Do not panic sell, most importantly. Wait for a few more days for the market to get to oversold condition and start adding shares of your favorite stock if you'd like. If you are a trader, I would definitely recommend looking at potentially playing for a bearish continuation for the next day or so, and then look for signs of reversal. Hopefully the information is helpful, and until the next video, bye.